Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my colleague from Indiana for yielding. And as we observed a moment of silence on the House floor just a little while ago, I rise today in honor of the 11 brave American servicemen involved in last week's tragic helicopter crash off the coast of Florida. It's heartbreaking events like this, Mr. Speaker, which remind us that freedom is not free. 4 of those heroes were members of the Louisiana National Guard stationed within the 1st of the 244th Assault Helicopter Battalion out of Hammond, Louisiana, which is located in my district. Our hearts are heavy, Mr. Speaker, as our nation joins the battalion in mourning the loss of Chief Warrant Officer George Wayne Griffin, Jr., Chief Warrant Officer George David Strother, Staff Sergeant Lance Ageron, and Staff Sergeant Thomas Florick. Their names will forever be engraved in our hearts and in our minds. They were described by their fellow soldiers as extraordinary and amazing aviators. Colonel Patrick Becerra, the commander of the State Aviation Command, who I spoke with over the weekend, said this, Mr. Speaker, quote, "This crew was made up of the larger-than-life men who have had a passion for Army aviation that was so evident in the dedication that they had towards their profession. I know this as I have personally flown with each one of them. They were driven by their intense desire to selflessly serve their country, fellow soldiers, and Marines." I want to talk about what some of their other colleagues said about them. Lieutenant Colonel John L. Bonnet II, who's the commander of the 244th, said, quote, "When I say they were heroes, I mean it many times over. They risked their lives under difficult conditions, flying in combat, and during national emergencies to ensure our security and help save thousands of people. I don't have the words to sum up their lives in a few sentences. You just can't. Our whole aviation family is reeling from this loss. The hole that is left is enormous. They were part of the fabric of this unit. The difference they made with everyone they served with will be a lasting legacy. Personally, flying with all of them was a privilege and an honor. I am a better person for having known them." Close quote. These heroes, Mr. Speaker, were husbands, fathers, and sons. We reflect upon the countless sacrifices they made for our great nation, the selfless call they answered to defend our freedoms. They died doing what they loved. I want to take a few moments now to let the American people know about these 4 members of the Louisiana National Guard who died in this tragic accident. First is Chief Warrant Officer 4 George Wayne Griffith, Jr., who was 37 years old. Chief Warrant Officer Griffin was from Delhi, Louisiana, and joined the Louisiana National Guard in 1994 and was commissioned as a warrant officer in 1999 before going on to become the battalion standardization pilot with over 6,000 flight hours, including more than 1,000 combat hours. He later deployed to Iraq in 2004 to 2005 and again was redeployed in 2008 and 2009. He also served during state deployments in the aftermath of Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, and Isaac, as well as in support of Operations River Guardian and Deepwater Horizon. G. Wayne Griffin was born to be an Army aviator, said Chief Warrant Officer 5 Reggie Lane, commander of the Detachment 38, Operational Support Airlift Commander. Quote, "As one of the most talented and respected warrant officers in the Louisiana National Guard, he had a tremendous passion for flying and a God-given natural ability to fly both helicopters and airplanes and to teach others to be the best aviators and crew members they could be. He was a great friend and brother to all. With his loss, there will be a void that may never be filled." Close quote. Griffin is survived by his wife, Becky, 4 children, and his father. Now, Chief Warrant Officer 4 George David Strother was 44 years old. Chief Warrant Officer Strother was from Alexandria and served in the Louisiana National Guard from 1988 to 2007 and again from 2009 until his death last week. He deployed to Iraq in 2004 and 2005, to Afghanistan in 2011, and Kosovo in 2014. He also served during state deployments for Hurricanes Katrina Rita, and Isaac. Strother commissioned as a warrant officer in 1994 before going on to become an instructor pilot with over 2,400 flight hours, including more than 700 combat hours. To describe Dave Strother as a big personality would not be accurate. He was more like a force of nature that could best be observed and marveled at, never opposed or altered, said Major Andre Johnson, commander of F Company, 2nd Battalion, 135th Aviation Regiment. His huge heart touched the lives of all men he met. Strother is survived by his wife, Melissa, his son, and a stepdaughter, and his mother. Staff Sergeant Lance Bageron, 40 years old. Staff Sergeant Lance Bageron of Thibodaux, Louisiana, enlisted into the U.S. Marine Corps in 1998 before joining the Louisiana National Guard in 2001 as a Black Hawk repairman. His extensive experience as a qualified enlisted flight instructor, graduate of the Aircraft Crew Member Standardization Instructor Course, Aircraft Maintainer Course, and Warrior Leader Course made Bageron a crew chief others aspired to be, according to members of his own unit. The combat veteran deployed to Iraq twice, in 2004 and 5, and again in 2008 and 9. Bageron also served during state deployments for Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, Isaac, and Operation River Guardian. Bageron is survived by his wife, Monique, 2 children, and his mother and father. Finally, Staff Sergeant Thomas Florick, 26 years old. Staff Sergeant Florick of Fairfax County, Virginia, enlisted in the Louisiana National Guard in 2007 as a Black Hawk repairer. He was posthumously promoted from sergeant to staff sergeant. Staff Sergeant Florick served during state deployments for Operation Deepwater Horizon and Hurricane Isaac. He earned more than 125 flight hours and was a graduate of the Warrior Leader Course. Quote, Tom was full of life and his personality could light the room, said Marquez. He was family with this unit and felt at home working with his brothers in Alpha Company. His dedication to duty and loyalty was without equal, always ready to accept any mission and extra duty in order to help the unit meet the mission. He will be greatly missed by the unit and the flight facility, close quote. Florick is survived by his wife, Megan, who's expecting their first child, as well as his father and stepmother. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, these 4 men served their country and the people of Louisiana with great honor. They deployed to war zones and served during times of great emergency for our state. And they represent the very best of what our military stands for. On behalf of my family, the Louisiana Congressional Delegation, and the entire House of Representatives, I want to say thank you to these 4 men and their families for the sacrifices they've made and for their service to our country. Their service and sacrifice will not be forgotten. They will remain in our prayers. God bless these heroes, and God bless America. I yield back.